Have you heard this song before? This song is the theme song of Netflix original Squid Game in Korea. Like this, popular Korean culture such as Korean movies is becoming more famous in the world, and many people are getting to know K-culture spontaneously. Then, do you know about Korean literature? If you don't know, let's dive into the world of Korean literature with us.
Hello, we are Global Overwhelmed from Busan International High School. The Korean literature that we are going to tell is meaningful in that it reflects the changing times of Korea. Let's learn about the history of Korea through the Korean literature with us. Then, please focus on us from now on. To learn about Korean literature, you need to know what Korean and its alphabet, Hangul, is, right? We invite you to basic Korean class.
Hangul is said to be the most developed letter in the world that linguists say. The value of the Hangul is recognized all over the world, ranking all the letters in the world based on originality, scientificity, and originality at Oxford University in the United Kingdom. Like as the English alphabet, Hangul can be largely divided into consonants and vowels.
The consonants are based on 5 letters, kyo, nu, mu, shu, and yu, which are modeled after the human's pronunciation structure. The vowels are based on 3 letters, area, u, and i. Area takes the shape of the sky, u takes the shape of the ground, and i takes the shape of the person standing. A total of 28 letters of Hunminjeongeum were created by combining 5 consonants and 3 vowels, and a total of 11,172 characters can be made by combining them. But Pancheum, Yeryung, Yorinhyut, and Aria is not used in now.
Hangul is an alphabet which is considered to bear uniqueness, scientific aspects, East Asian philosophy, and to have an easiness in learning.
Then, let's see the change of Korean society through K-literature. The history of Korean literature did not just begin in the early Joseon dynasty when Hangul was created, but it has begun for thousands of years starting from the ancient times. As many temple poems appeared during the Goryeo dynasty, and elaborate and formal works were popular during the Joseon dynasty. Korean literature varies from time to time, but it is common that it reflects the ethnic consciousness to endure and overcome trials despite historical adversity. Literary works reflecting this ethnic consciousness contributed to establishing the national spirit and rallying the nation in midst of her time.
In this way, literature in Korean society differs in form and content depending on the times and popular ideas. But it has helped our society overcome adversity and move toward development. Let's go look at Joseon, Japanese colonial era, and today's Korea in various literature.
First, to look about this literature of Joseon. Before telling it, we will learn briefly about Joseon in order to understand easily about its literature. In the Joseon dynasty, which is often the background of historical dramas in Korean dramas, Joseon was a society where people wore hanbok, had a status from king to slave, and valued manners between king and slave, the old and young, by Confucianism. In the early time of Joseon, Hangul was invented. Sejong, the king of Joseon, made Hunminjeongeum the right sound to teach the people. Hunminjeongeum is the record of Sejong's purpose of making Hunminjeongeum and how to use Hangul. Through Hunminjeongeum, we can see that King Sejong created Hunminjeongeum to show Joseon's subjectivity from China and to make it easier to write it with pity for the people who can't write the Chinese. Hunminjeongeum is also a reference that shows that Hangul is the first alphabet modeled after the human pronunciation structure. Hunminjeongeum is the only book in the world that contains the background of creation of alphabet, and it was recognized for its value by being listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1997.
The middle of the Joseon dynasty was a period of political turmoil due to the power struggles between parties in court.
Some politicians were deprived of power and exiled to countryside due to the changes over changes of political situation. And they wrote a lot of gasa telling the king that they were innocent. A representative article claiming his innocence is Saminguk, written by Jeongchul. Jeongchul was interrupted by his opposition faction due to a power struggle and exiled to the countryside. Saminguk is a word that expressing loyalty to king by comparing the situation that he is exiled to countryside and separated from the king to the heart of a woman who separates and adores to her husband. Through this work, we can see that the technique of expressing the writer as a woman and comparing the heart for the king to a heart for love was popular.
그때여 춘향이와 이도령이 만난 지 엊그제인 듯하나 하루 가고 이틀 가고 5, 6일이 넘어가니 어린 사람들이 부끄러움은 훨씬 멀리 가고 정말
Tale of Chunyang is a representative literary work of Pansori. It depicts love beyond the statues of main character Song Chunyang and Lee Mong-ryong.
Through the love story between Chunyang and Mong-ryong, he expresses his attempt to overcome the status system of Joseon society at the time. As it is a genre of pansori, it brings fun and emotion to readers, especially the common people, through satirizing of people in power and humorous lines. Under Japanese rule, Koreans were largely divided into those who resisted to Japan and those who took their own interest by betraying their nation and collaborating with Japanese.
There's a piece of literature that shows Japanophile who took their interest by collaborating with Japan. The Martyred is a novel that criticizes the appearance of an opportunist jumping on the bandwagon during the backdrop of Japanese colonial era and 1950s.
Lee In-guk, the main character, is a talented doctor, but rather than striving for his country's independence, he lives as an exemplary Japanophile by using only Japanese at home and sending his children to study in Japan. After the end of the colonial era and the return of Korea, he switched his position 2 times, once a Sovietophile and then an Americanophile. Figures like Dr. Lee In-guk existed during Japanese colonial era, typically 5 ministers of the Korean Empire called 5 Ulsa traitors. They agreed and signed the first Treaty of Ulsa in 1905, which played a decisive role in Japan's colonization of Korea by handing over the political and diplomatic rights of the Korean Empire to Japan. Writer Jeong Kwang-yong criticized those traitors who handed over the state's sovereignty and interrupted the independence movement, while others are making efforts to save the nation.
But in Korea, there were many activists and writers who resisted against the Japanese colonial rule. Yoon Dong-ju is one of the writers who resisted against Japan by writing poems. Calm atmosphere of counting the stars at night contains the will to resist against Japan. The speaker counts the stars in a sky filled with atom with untroubled quietude. The speaker counts each star and names his precious things to each star.
His will, which has been strengthened by self-reflection, is linked to his resistance and attitude of overcoming, saying, "The spring shall come to my stars after winter's delay, greening the turf over the graves, so this bank that buries my name shall proudly wear the grass again." Winter is Japanese colonial era, and spring means liberation. Just as grass blooms on the town, on the hill where his name is written. The speaker says he will not give up his will even if he loses his life as a result of resistance. On August 6, 1945, the United States dropped an atomic bomb on Hiroshima, Japan, and 3 days later on Nagasaki. This was a critical blow to Japan. On August 15, Japan declared unconditional surrender and Korea was liberated.
In the gaining of independence, Korean people's resistance and will played a big role. After Korea became Japanese colony in 1910, Koreans made great efforts for their independence. They did not give up their passion for independence even though they were subjected to cruel Japanese torture and punishment.
Near the end of World War II, Koreans began to make independence movement more actively, knowing that the defeat of Japanese imperialism was approaching. They organized various organizations and tried to promote Japanese atrocities abroad. By this, Allied powers recognized the Korea's will of independence and decided to liberate it. The long independence became true.
The joy of gaining independence didn't last long. Right after it, Korea was divided into South and North, and by war, the state of divided nation prolonged. After it, based on the 1950s, many literary works expressing the pain of people were published. It was liberated on August 15, 1945, was divided later. The South Korean and North Korean governments were established respectively in 1948. The South was supported by US and the North was supported by the Soviet Union. And on June 25, 1950, around 4 a.m., the Korean War broke out due to a sudden invasion from North Korea. At the beginning of the war, North Korean army, which was supported by tanks afforded by Soviet Union, blazed through the South Korean soil. UN forces established defensive lines along the Nakdong River and successfully defended the area. Following the Incheon landing operation, the situation underwent a reversal. After China's intervention, the front was in stalemate near the 38th parallel. And on July 27, 1933, the two countries entered a state of armistice with the signing of an armistice agreement. Yoon Heung-gil's The Rainy Season expresses the horrors of the Korean War, a war between the same nationalities. The Rainy Season is a novel that testifies to the pain and sadness of people who have been hurt by the violence of history through the tragedy and overcoming of a family during the war and comfort them. It expresses the Korean people who were suffering through serpents and concludes the story with the end of the rainy season, the title of the book.
Suggesting that the wounds of people caused by ideological confrontation and war will be healed someday. It gives a local feeling with slang, dialect, and shamanism.
In 1960s, the Republic of Korea began to industrialize.
A small ball shot by a midget will express the dark sides of Korean society and the pain of the underprivileged in the urbanization process in Korea in the 1970s.
In this work, the very short father symbolizes the image of the socially disadvantaged who were alienated during the industrialization process in Korea.
In addition, the loss of homes by the families of the dwarfs symbolizes the side effects of Korea's radical economic development and industrialization. As such, Korea experienced industrialization and achieved rapid growth in a short period of time, but it caused many side effects, especially for the poor. So, what about Korea 50 years later? Korea has achieved tremendous growth unlike in the past. However, it should be remembered that behind the current appearance of Korea was the sacrifice of the lower class, such as the dwarf father in the era of Korean industrialization. So far, we have learned about Korean literature by period. How about learning about Korean society by reading the literatures of Korea that you are interested in? These will provide you a variety of joy. Thank you for watching our video. We are Glover over Moments.